7 o'clock? I have 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody. This is the Minnetrista City Council meeting from December 1st. Would you all please join me, as is customary here, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, again, good evening, and thank you all for coming, and also good evening for those who may be watching on YouTube in the future. I'm Lisa Whalen. I'm your new mayor. Some of you might wonder why I'm here and rather than Ann Hunt at this time. The mayoral seat was a special election to fill the vacancy made by Cheryl Fisher's resignation. I was sworn in, so therefore, after a certain number of items happened, I was sworn in on November 21st. So I am officially the mayor. With that, I'd like to make some other introductions. Next to me is Councilor Mark Vanderlinde, Councilor Arlene Donahue, Councilor Bob Christians, Councilor Tyler Abens, and then our city engineer, Mr. Paul Hornsby. Okay, thank you. And then next to me on my right is our interim city administrator, Mr. Baroni, our finance director, Mr. Grimm, our planning director, David Abel, Mr. Abel, and then our city attorney, Mr. Beatty, Ron Beatty, and then at the end, our chief of police, Paul Falls. With that, I need approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda or changes anybody wishes to make?
On the regular meeting minutes from November 13th, I think the motion was slightly different.
Okay.
I hope the negotiations, they were able to go forward, because I think the motion was...
We can pull that. That's under
Yeah,
a consent agenda item.
Yep.
So when we get to that, why don't we pull that for a little discussion?
Yep.
Okay. But is there anything else you'd like to add, or? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Next on our agenda is persons to be heard. Thank you. I hope I can read people's writing here. Our first person is,
We have to vote.
I'm
we have to
sorry.
vote.
I'm getting ahead of myself,
On the
thank you.
agenda.
Yeah. All right, motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda, thank you. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes, thank you. Keep me in line here. All right, next we have persons to be heard. This is an opportunity for residents to address the council on items that they would like to bring to their attention. You will have 3 minutes. We ask that you be respectful, and we will keep you, because we do have a crowd here this evening, we will keep you to the 3-minute maximum. And with that, Mr. Cole, I believe you are first. Please state your name and address for the record.
All right. Good evening. My name is Brad Cole. I live on Saunders Lake Drive South, in the Saunders Lake South neighborhood. So, Honorable Mayor and City Council members, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wanted to cover 3 main points regarding the water treatment plant project, and specifically the portion that deals with the newly selected route going through the north and south Saunders Lake neighborhoods. And so these issues are including what I perceive as misleading and inaccurate or inconsistent information, previously considered routes, and then I wanted to say a few words about the will of the citizens of Minnetrista. So first, there was no agenda posted for this council meeting until late this morning. There haven't been agendas posted for quite some time, so it's difficult for citizens to know what's actually going to be discussed. Second, I found out our neighborhood was the selected route only because Gopher State One Call had marked up our property, and we started making phone calls. And so nowhere on the city's website or in council meeting minutes from the past are there Saunders Lake neighborhoods mentioned. So I couldn't find any record of Saunders Lake neighborhoods even being a possible route up to this point. So third, conversations with both city officials in Bolton and Mink result in contradictory information. So when I talk to city officials, call the Public Works hotline, talk to Gary Peters, they say, we're just exploring options, nothing to worry about. Talk to Bolton and Mink, and they say it's a done deal, we're breaking ground in July. So you can imagine my concern. And it was indicated by Mayor Whalen that the route was decided in a closed, off-camera meeting after the open city council meeting was canceled due to weather.
Oh, I didn't say it was a closed meeting, just to clarify.
Okay.
Okay.
On November 25th, Bolton and Mink employees were trespassing on my property, walking all over my landscape, surveying my property right up to my front door. I actually have this on video surveillance. I've been advised that they need to actually have permission to do this. So regarding other routes, the only two routes that have been publicly documented run through Mound, and then another route next to the Dakota Rail, which is a bike trail. Either of which would be less impactful to the citizens of this community. So I question the level of negotiation that's been attempted, especially with respect to the rail authority. And I want to ask, have you considered the time and expense of pursuing eminent domain and the expense of restoring homeowners' properties to the state that they were in prior to construction? Seems to me this would add significant time and expense to the project. So I want to make sure that I state very clearly that I do not grant permission for the city of Minnetrista or Bolton and Mink to enter my property for purposes related to this project, nor do I intend to voluntarily grant an easement, and I expect that you will follow the legal process for acquiring the real estate for a public project. If you intend to pursue eminent domain, I expect that you will follow all of the required statutory steps.
Mr. Cole, I'm sorry, it is 3 minutes.
Okay,
So, yes, thank you very much for your comments.
all right,
Okay, thank
thank
you.
you.
Next, we have Pat Maud.
You can have my 3 minutes. You can have my 3 minutes. You may have my 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, can I get your names then?
My name is Russ Pierce,
Russ,
6550 South
okay.
Saunders Lake Drive.
Okay.
And I agree with Brad.
okay,
And you may
that's,
have mine, Barbara Dating, 6595 Walnut Drive. You may
Sure.
have my 3 minutes.
okay, great. That,
I promise you don't have 3 minutes
that's
more to
okay,
go.
no, that's fine. Thank you.
So thank you. So I wanted to say a few words about the will of the citizens of Minnetrista. So in my discussions with the city council and Bolton and Mink, reference is often made to a survey sent out to residents regarding the water treatment options. And quickly followed by that statement is the people have chosen this option. Unfortunately, that survey didn't provide enough information to make an intelligent choice regarding the cost and full impact to the community. So if that was intended to be an official vote by the community, it should have been added to the ballot in November. In the November election, the citizens of Minnetrista did make a choice. They clearly stated they want a change in representation. As a result, I believe it would be appropriate for the current council to table consideration of these matters, a project with a price tag of at least $22 million, until the newly elected city council has been installed in January 2015. To do anything else would be going against effectively the will of the people. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And that wasn't 6 minutes, so we have Pat Maud.
Hi, I'm Pat Maud, South Saunders Lake Drive. I have a few questions I would like to ask the council and the mayor. I know that you will not be able to answer most of these questions right now, but I would like answers at some point. Why was Saunders residents not notified regarding the possible route of the water main through our neighborhood? Where exactly is the water main planned to be put? Has the city considered the impact to the residents of Saunders neighborhoods? Bolton Mink said they can not only tear up our roads for installation of the water main, but they can go into our properties 16 feet. That would take out mature trees, very expensive landscaping of many property owners. They stated there would be times we would have no access to our driveways. This is what they said to us. And as we talked to some of them out in our neighborhood that we're working out there. for those that have home offices, this would be a complete disruption. What is the plan for reimbursement for our landscaping and our mature trees that are damaged to the root systems or cutting our trees down? And the cost for reimbursing the homeowners for real estate losses as well. A lot of our neighbors, they all have very expensive landscaping. I know mine was $30,000, my neighbor's was $50,000, and to have it totally disrupted, not really happy about that. Yes, I want better quality of water, but at what cost? $22 million that 1,200 residents will be paying for. If I'm wrong, let me know, but it doesn't make sense. These are some questions I would like some answers to. Thank you.
And we will be having a discussion later in the council meeting regarding the water treatment facility, and I urge all of you to stay and listen. So,
Thank you.
and next we have Jerry Wiggin.
This has nothing to do with water treatment, but it does have to do with you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Whalen, during the events leading up to the November election, your supporters stood here and accused current council members of illegal activity, even threatening lawsuits, none of which were ever proven or materialized, while in truth, all along, it was your campaign which was again violating federal law. On 2 separate occasions, you were told to stop your illegal activities, but you ignored those warnings. One came from Pamela Miller of the Star Tribune for your violation of U.S. copyright laws, the other from Mr. Michael Lean, director of the Dare America organization in Inglewood, California, for violating federal trademark laws as shown on the photos which I have here of your banner. I have this email from Mr. Lean which states that it was necessary for their lawyers to issue a cease and desist order for you to stop using their name and logo in your campaign efforts. Verbal attempts were ignored by your campaign. The DARE organization provides valuable crime fundraising monies for our community. DARE received numerous complaints from residents that stated that they would not participate in the current DARE fundraising campaign efforts, all because of DARE's perceived support of your campaign. As a result, it was necessary for DARE to pay for their own legal fees and for this quarter-page article in the November 29th edition of the Laker newspaper denouncing any support of your campaign. This would be a violation of 501c3 federal law. It is not surprising that your campaign chairman, David Cole, a former Minnetrista police chief and current Champlin police chief, would knowingly engage in this type of activity. This is a real slap in the face to all honorable police officers that serve everywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Wiggins. Next, we have Keith. I apologize, I can't read it. Lumen, okay.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Keith Lumen. I'm on 2528 North Saunders Lake Drive. And what I wanted to speak to was just, as you can hear, back to the water treatment plant, there is a lot of misunderstanding, seeking for knowledge. And I would ask that you understand what I'm hearing most from this is there's people asking for what's going to happen to me. And I think from what I'm hearing is the amount of communication coming from the city has been at a minimum of what is expected by law, by statute, or whatever, but not really an honest outreach to the people whose life are going to be impacted every day by this process. So what I'm asking you to think about is what is the amount of communication so that people can understand what's going to impact their lives, their families, their costs, their front yards, versus what's the minimum that the statute and laws require. So I'm seeing a pretty big gap from what I need for information to make a decision as, you know, as a resident. And I'm hearing a lot of extracurricular work that's had to go in to a lot of people's probably taking time out of their work to figure out what's going to happen to them. And I think there's a lot of probably knowledge in this room of what actually is gonna happen. And I think just, you know, I'd like to thank the people who've actually done all the hard work and gotten a lot of people involved in this, because this could have just slipped by a lot of people's radar. And I hope that wasn't the intent, but I hope that you would go above and beyond what's required to actually inform and get consent from people. So I would second the notion that, for me personally, I do not support, you know, somebody coming on and surveying on my property without my consent, nor do I approve of, you know, any of the abatements that may come, which I might have been open to if someone had come to me early and said, hey, here's what we're gonna do for the better good. But I think that chance has passed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Jason, on Walnut Drive, 6620, Mr. Jason, I can't read the last name.
But Brad's going to bring it.
Okay. And then we have Tom Donahue.
Tom Donahue, 6115 Sunnyfield Road. I've only been there 50 years. That's longer than most of you have been alive. But anyway, I'd like to thank the President Consul, Tyler especially, took over from the midstream and did a good job. And I don't know if your wife's here or not, but I think she'll appreciate the fact that you've been sitting behind a bulletproof piece of wall that most of the people in the city don't know about, that Lisa put in against our vote, along with the old consul, that ramrodded a lot of things through. So you've been real safe, Tyler. And you did a good job, and you voted wisely, and anytime you want to run for mayor, I'll back you 100%.
Thank you.
2 years. Anyway, and I'm sure glad to get Arlene back on weekends. Now she's been reading 300 pages that were sent out on a Friday night, and go through and analyze and get digested every other week. So we may have our every other weekend free again. Done a good job. And Bob and Mark have done a good job in cleaning up the city a little bit. Being on a personnel committee isn't fun. We had a water tower issue where we had people that weren't doing their job. I'm still addressing that today, working on water heaters and stuff that are full of junk from a city that hasn't taken care of their issues. Finally, our personnel committee had enough courage to take care of the problem and get rid of the people that weren't doing their job. Some were driving through the buildings without putting their boxes down. Unheard of. Anyway, going back to the October 28th article, with all the campaign articles, there was one that was awful long-winded, and I know that's always happened, doesn't it, Lisa? It goes on and on and on. I'd like to repeat some of the things in the campaign about listening to the decisions of the city residents, like with their water issues. Another thing that was brought up was roads, parks, and I hope the road thing keeps improving like it has with the council we have now. I brought in numerous contractors that are non-engineered, sorry about that are road builders, have done terrific jobs in Watertown Township, Medina, Lake Town Township, and have done a super job at a reasonable price without a lot of engineering fees. We don't need any more $1 million a mile roads, Paul. These guys can do them for 100, 150. I had the estimates at the road meetings. And they're professional road builders. They could build these roads with their eyes shut. They don't need engineering, especially from WSB. We've had enough costs to that effect. Anyway, as far as the parks go, Lisa, you said you're going to take care of the parks. I think some of that money was diverted for this police station over here when you were on council. And I hope this money goes back to the parks where it belongs. I had numerous people complain about not getting their park out in Hunter's Crest and other areas.
Mr. Donahue, your 3 minutes are up.
Council,
Mr. Donahue, your 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much for your comments. Your 3 minutes are up, and I'm going to have to keep you to the 3 minutes. Thank you. I have Carl Franzen.
Good evening. My name's Carl Franzen, 6505 South Saunders Lake Drive. I just wanted to let you know that I'm also in the South Saunders neighborhood impacted by the water treatment plant. I'm in agreement with Brad, what Brad Cole stated, and as well as what Mr. Lumen said. So please do take in mind that you will impact a lot of people, whether it's personal. There's a lot of landscaping, water, electric lines, a lot of expenses to be replaced and to be redone. I would like you guys to reconsider going down through the bike line. Less impact, easy access. The bike trail could be put either through our neighborhood or through West Edge Road and around and connected back up with a lot less impact to the people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is everybody, I think, that's signed up. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council that did not get an opportunity to sign up? Okay. Again, like I stated, I know you're here for the water treatment issue, and that is on the agenda. So we will be discussing that, and I hope you stay to hear that discussion. So next, we will move on to special presentations. If you can't hear me at any time, just raise your hand. I don't know if this microphone is working. If you can't hear, just raise your hand and I'll try and speak louder. First, we have recognition of our outgoing city council members and outgoing Mayor Ann Hunt. We have under 3A, resolution recognizing Tyler Abens for service on the Minnetrista City Council. And I'd like to read the resolution. Recognizing Tyler Abens for service on the Minnetrista City Council. Whereas Tyler Abens was appointed to the Minnetrista Council at the June 2nd, 2014 City Council meeting to serve the remaining months of the vacated council seat created when Ann Hunt was appointed as mayor in April of 2014. And whereas Tyler served on a subcommittee of the council that had direct impact on the water treatment planning process. And whereas Tyler, even though his term was short, used his education and his job experiences in the business and financial analysis field to examine issues before the council in order to make very pragmatic, efficient, and common sense related comments that moved the council forward in many instances. And now therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minnetrista that we thank Tyler Abens for his dedication, time, and service to the community as a City Council member for the past few months and as a leader in the City of Minnetrista. Thank you, Tyler. This is a resolution, so I would like a motion to pass this resolution.
I'll make a motion to pass the resolution.
Second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to recognize Tyler Abens for his service on the Minnetrista City Council. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you again. And you have, this is your certificate if you want to hand it to him. Next we have Mrs. Donahue. This is in recognition of Arlene Donahue for service on the Minnetrista City Council. Whereas Arlene Donahue was elected to the Minnetrista City Council during the 2010 general election and has served as a Minnetrista City Council member for the past 4 years. And whereas Arlene has served as a liaison for the City Council to the Gillespie Center, the Parks Commission, and has served on the Personnel Committee. Whereas Arlene has contributed to maintaining a sound fiscal approach that has helped the city continue to be recognized with an annual CAFR award during her entire tenure as a council member, and whereby the city continues to maintain its AA+ bond rating through the Standard & Poor credit rating. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minnetrista that we thank Arlene Donahue for her dedication, time, and service to the community as a City Council member for the past 4 years and as a leader in the City of Minnetrista. I would entertain a motion to recognize Arlene Donahue.
I will make a motion to recognize Arlene Donahue.
I'll second it.
Okay. A motion has been made to recognize Arlene Donahue for her service to the Minnetrista City Council. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Ms. Donahue, here's your certificate. And next, we have one for Ann Hunt. I don't believe she's present here this evening, but it's recognizing Ann Hunt for her service on the Minnetrista City Council. And whereas Ann Hunt was elected to the Minnetrista City Council during the 2010 general election and has served as a Minnetrista Council member and mayor for the past 4 years, and mayor for the past several months. Whereas Ann has served as a liaison representative for the City Council to the Lake Minnetonka Conservation District, Northwest Hennepin League of Municipalities, Police Communications Committee, Pioneer Creek Watershed Commission, and the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District. Whereas Ann has contributed to maintaining a sound fiscal approach that has helped the city continue to be recognized with an annual CAFR award during her entire tenure on the council, and whereby the city continues to maintain its AA+ bond rating through the Standard & Poor credit rating. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minnetrista that we thank Ann Hunt for her dedication, time, and service to the community as a City Council member and mayor for the past 4 years as a leader in the City of Minnetrista. Do we have a motion to pass this
I
resolution?
will make a motion to pass a resolution to recognize Anna.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes.
Yep, make sure she gets it.
Thank you. Now we have a budget presentation by Mr. Grimm
Yes.
and some discussion, and then after Mr. Grimm makes his presentation, this is not a public hearing, but we will open it to the public. If you would care to make any comments or have questions regarding the budget, you may do so. We'll allow that. And then it'll come back to the council. We'll have some discussion, and we do need to pass this evening because of some deadlines that are looming.
Sure.
Mr. Grimm.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, and I'll probably keep this pretty brief because from the persons to be heard, I'm assuming you're not all here to listen to the budget. I think it's a different topic. So
Thank
I've got probably 10, 15 slides to show here, and I know the council, we've had numerous discussions on the budget and I thank the council for their input through the process and time, and as well as the staff and department managers and department heads. So we'll go through the sort of the summary of the final levy and budget that'll be discussed then during the business item of the agenda. As Mayor Whalen said, the recommended action is to approve the resolution for the final levy for 2015 as presented in the packet in this presentation. Our goals of the city each year are to, first of all, ensure the city's financial stability, address capital improvement needs in our capital improvement plan, which was attached in the packet, the final draft there. Staffing and benefit levels we look at every year, and then also one of our main goals this year we talked about a lot was begin funding our pavement management plan. So I think those are all important goals and things that we are definitely this budget entails. What you have here is the trend of our levy for the last few years, and then 2015 proposed. You can see we've had pretty much, if you go down to the bottom line, we have the multiple components to our levy: our general fund, our operations, our debt levy, road maintenance, which is something that we've talked about and added more dollars to, and then our total gross levy, and then some dollars we get back through the fiscal disparities program. But you can see we've pretty much had a flat or 0% increase from 12, 13, and 14. This actually ends up being about a 3.2% increase, and that's down, as noted in the memo in the packet, from 4.1% due to the refunding, refinancing, reclassifying of the Public Works garage and public safety building. We did that refinancing basically earlier this year, so that saved us about $32,000 a year. So that's reflected in this, obviously, final levy and what made the increase less than what was in the proposed levy. So kudos to the council and staff for doing that. So here you can see the trend of our levy for the last several years. Back in 2009, our levy was our gross levy was 4.6 million, and it's came down, and then this is where I was just talking about the flat, or the same levy that we've had the past several years, and then this would be the 3.2% increase to about a levy just over 4,004,000. That's was presented on the previous slide. In association with that, you can see our expenditures. We've made some adjustments over the past several years. To be about a little over 4.5 million in our general fund for expenditures. We're dipped down to about 4 million. We're starting to, see, with the economy turning around, and we've hired, a planner back, and we've incorporated some of these things to try to make sure that we don't make strides and keep up with, building inspections in our roads, etc. So, one of the items, also I'll talk about a little later, is hiring the lieutenant position back at mid-year, which we talked about through the budget process. Here's our financial results for the past several years. On the left here is our fund balance. So you can see we've ranged in the $2 to $2.5 million range in our general fund. As a percentage, it's been in that 50 to 60% range. So we've kept a healthy financial fund balance, which is good and helps tie into, I think as in the previous resolutions, our AA+ credit rating and such. So this is an important thing, and something that we've worked hard to maintain, a fund balance to make sure we are able to cash flow throughout the year, and also have a good credit rating. One of the items that's in the packet was an equipment certificate to fund some of our capital purchases for 2015, and one of the reasons we've discussed that, and it made financial sense, is just based on we've cut back and been pretty prudent the last several years. Well, there's some things that we need to purchase in public works that we discussed at previous the work sessions during the budget process that basically make up the capital improvement plan that was in the packet as presented. Pavement management plan. Here's we really want to make sure that we're funding that. So you can see here's where we're trying to add $100,000 each year to basically fund our pavement management plan fully. So this is for 2015 on the previous slide on the total levy, that was at $100,000 that was added in. So you can see ultimately we'd like to get up to funding that at a level of $900,000 by 2019, and doing that by incrementally phasing that in. This basically takes into account and tries to, in a synopsis in one slide, show the trend of our tax levy for the past several years. We've actually been pretty good and had a surplus the last few years, so that's why we're able to use some of our reserves from 2014, 2015 to help have just the incremental or inflationary levy increase as proposed for 2015. And then this is, I referenced earlier, our fund balance reserve. We've been in the 50 to 60% range.
And Brian, could you touch a little bit on what the state law requires for the budget reserves, and then what the city policy is and how that is
Sure.
reflected on where we're at?
Sure. The state auditor's office, or the office of state auditor, recommends cities to maintain at least a balance between 35 to 50%. So we're a little on the higher end of that, and that's why we have looked at using our, some of those reserves, in 2014 and 15 to help sort of use a good balance of using reserves versus, increasing the tax levy. Our own fund balance policy says we should not go below 40%, so we also are in compliance with that. So a minimum of 40%.
Correct.
This slide puts it more, I guess, into real dollars, or what people's pocketbooks. A property that was valued at about $500,000 back in 2010. Obviously, that property had some valuation adjustments just based on the economy and based on what the assessor's office valued properties at. But what we've done with our tax levy is actually we've done real decreases. So you can see, even with this slight increase in 2015, it equates for this property to about a $17 increase for the year, which is less than $2 a month. So. But still, basically almost a couple $100 less than this property was paying back 5 years ago. So here's another way just to show it. I think the average property increase for 2015 for Minnetrista properties was right around 5.5%. So some of these different valued properties, if you take their valuation in 14, add in what it would be for 15, you can see, I mean, it's an $8 to $39 increase, you know, so basically, you know, $1 to $3 a month as far as increase, so pretty minimal, especially after taking into account that most people have seen decreases over the last several years. Here's just some of the components of, in a quick glance of the 2015 budget. We do have our Mound and St. Bonnie fire contracts, and they both have pretty minimal increases there. We do have our labor contracts and non-union salary benefits, so basically that's the dollar amount there is for all, police, public works, city hall staff, what those increases, both, bargained and what has been, included in the budget. Referenced earlier the police lieutenant position. That's been a position that's been unfilled the past 2 or 3 years.
3 years.
3 years, and we're looking to add that back mid-year to sort of, soften the financial impact and then gear up for bringing that person on board during, not right away at the beginning of the year, but mid-year. Capital improvements using a combination of the fund balance and equipment certificates. We referenced the pavement management plan, making sure we're funding that to make sure our roads, we keep improving those all the time. Both, we've done some things with the gravel with our road maintenance fund, but then also doing, making sure we're staying up on our paved roads. And then lastly, in the fee schedule item we'll talk about in a little bit, and we had numerous discussions on the enterprise funds, the utility funds, the water, sewer, surface water, stormwater funds, as far as any type of rate adjustments to make sure we fund those items, to make sure we're keeping up there also. I guess, so these items will be a little later in the agenda, but basically the staff recommendation is to approve by resolution the final levy as presented. And then, we've had numerous, meetings since the summer. Basically, if you boil down that 3.2% in a nutshell, 2.6% of it's for roads, or that, funding that pavement management plan, and another, 0.6% is the effect to the debt levy, slightly increasing by the net effect of the equipment certificate minus the refunding of the EDA lease revenue bond. So at this point, that's all I have for the presentation. So I guess I don't know if council has any questions. Otherwise, we could open it up to the public, either order, I guess. Or
you folks have been looking at it for quite some time. Do you have any specific questions of staff? No. We can certainly have more time afterwards too. But is there anybody here this evening that would like to ask questions or has comments regarding the budget?
Excuse me, Brian. Excuse me, just for a clarification of something. At an earlier council meeting, we passed a resolution of refinancing the Public Works Department and the Police Department.
Yep.
And over the term of that bond was about a $500,000 savings.
Yes. Yep. So that
and it came out to, if I recall, somewhere around $35,000 a year.
Yeah, it's like about $32,000 a year over the remaining.
Okay.
Years
Now,
of the
in
bond.
the 2015 budget, just so I understand it correctly, that 0.6%, that's calculated in that, in your calculations, is that correct?
Yep, yeah, because basically we have the equipment certificate that's going to have the effect of about.
And that will take place in 2015,
15, yep.
the
So that's-
35,000 savings by refinancing the police department and the public works.
Yes, yep, correct, yep. So the reason the special levy, the debt levy here is going up, if we come over to this far right column, we have the equipment certificate that's for about $70,000, and then net of that is the $32,000 savings for refunding those
The only other
bills.
comment I have is when going through this and sitting through this process, the last several months going through this with you, one of the things that's very confusing for our taxpayers, our residents, is how this is all calculated and figured out. So in reality, correct me if I'm wrong, did we not have about 89 new home permits that were pulled in the year 2014 so far up to October 1st?
Yes, and most of those won't be on. We've been adding about 40 new homes a year the past several years, and those would be on the new tax.
Right, but this year we've had 89 homes so far
Yes.
through October
So those
1st,
will-
correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Those will
so-
help for 2015.
So in
for 16.
reality, the impact to me as a homeowner in the residents of Minnetrista, the impact that we're talking here, really, in reality, is flat. Very, very minimal.
It's very minimal. I mean, it's less than 3.2% because you're spreading it amongst more properties.
You have
So-
more properties, and of course, next year, as you know, like we got 89 homes that were being permits pulled, will increase that dollar revenue, which in turn helps us all.
Correct. It spreads it amongst more.
The question, I think, is will those 89 homes be tax-paying homes in the year 2015, or do they come online in the year 2016?
Most of those would come online for 2016. so-
2016.
Yep, yeah. What we've added in the past couple years has been more in that 30 to 40, new homes a year. So, but basically, the way the property, the assessor's office and the county does it is, it's what the value is at the beginning of January 2nd of the previous year is what the
Right.
taxable
Well,
amount is.
this is extremely important, because as we planned for the, improvement of the roads, and we've had numerous comments over the last 6 months or last year that the roads are in better condition today than they ever have been. And that's very, very important as we look down the road here with 89 new homes coming in. That's additional revenues coming in, because we're putting $100,000 a year into the road fund, which obviously will be a tremendous help in offsetting some of those costs. That's how I'm looking at it. Am I wrong?
Well, the 100,000, if we go to this pavement management plan again,
But in other words, the revenues, we have more revenues coming in 2016 to offset some of those costs, or to help.
Correct, yeah, I
Help
mean-
with some of those costs.
correct, we'll have more, properties to spread that to with
And
that
that's the
have
point I
more
wanted to make.
valuation. Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Because I have a few. Brian, maybe you could just touch on our stormwater. We had revenues of 220,000, but expenditures of 434,000. Could you explain why it's listed in the budget like that? Because where would we get the extra $220,000?
Sure. Let me scroll to that. No, good question, Madam Mayor. What we didn't want to plug in was, and when the discussions we had as we were meeting in work sessions on the surface water budget was some of these projects that were budgeted for in the plan potentially could have grant and or FEMA dollars. So we didn't want to count on them until we had them. So what we discussed, obviously if the grant or the dollars don't come in as we hope, we would either need to do one of two things: A, cut back on some of the projects that were in the program, or B, we talked about as staff and council maybe raising the rate in the surface water fund instead of to $20 a quarter, up from $18.50 to $25 a quarter, to raise that additional revenue. We talked about and decided as a consensus to hold off on doing an adjustment right now as the fee schedule is presented to 25, because we could always do an interim adjustment in 2015 if we needed to. So, so the important piece is finding out how many and how much, grant dollars, and we've got, David and Paul could probably speak a little bit more to this as far as how much we've got in the hopper and what our likelihood of getting it is, but some of that's just unknown. It's not, set in
Right.
stone like a property tax levy or some utility rates or stuff you can count on, I guess, so.
Okay. And then on the fund balance, the city's policy is minimum 40, and the state guidelines are 50, so we should be somewhere between 40 and 50, correct?
That's where, I'd
Okay.
usually like to stay.
And
Yeah,
so we need to be looking at that and keeping careful tabs on that, because we are over that.
correct, and that's why we are using some of the surplus this year to spend some of that down.
It's one of those creditors.
Thought you turned it off, Tyler.
Apparently not.
Okay.
So yes, correct.
This was a
Turned in
cell
his cell
phone that
phone.
one of our council members turned in today.
So, but no, that would be something we'd continue to look at with future budgets is potentially, and I think in the financial management plan that is attached in for the update to that, that's some we'll discuss later in the meeting,
Okay.
we actually project that out to try to get that back more into the mid-40s over the
Okay.
next several years.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, we do need a motion. I
Are-
believe there's a resolution in our packet. Hold on just a second. I'm not
Actually,
on
I
that
think
page.
right now, Madam Mayor, I think we have all the approvals for the 2015 budget under the business items
Okay,
coming
so
up here after.
you don't want to do that at this time?
No, I think we accomplished the presentation and then
Okay.
gave the audience an opportunity to speak, which we had no speakers, so
Okay.
we'll just move on to consent agenda, and then we'll be back to vote on each segment of the budget approval under business items.
Under business
Yep,
items,
under
okay.
item 6.
All right. Okay. With that, then, we will move on to consent agenda. And Mr. Abens, you wanted to remove,
The regular meeting minutes.
okay, that would be number 4B.
B.
So we'll remove that. Are there any other items you wish to remove from the consent agenda? Otherwise, we have consent agenda approving 4A, approving the special meeting minutes for the November 13th meeting. 4C, approve the 2014 budget amendments. Resolution number 4D, approving and finalize the 2014 budgeted transfers. And number 4E, update authorized signors. And number 4F, resolution accepting donations related to Spirit of the Lakes. Number 4G, resolution approving change order number 2 SCADA system rehabilitation project. And a resolution approving our step increase for Aaron Rassett, our public works maintenance worker. A resolution number approving step increase for Michael Bruzek, police officer. And number 4J, resolution approving number 2015 city council meeting calendar. Is there a motion to approve those consent agenda items?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made to second those consent agenda items for A through J less B. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Mr. Abens.
Yeah, on page 53 of the packet, it says that motion by Avon, second by Vanderlee to table this item to the next city council meeting. I believe the motion was we wanted them to go ahead and be able to start negotiating with the property owner. And we just didn't want to blindly approve anything, so they could go ahead and start negotiating with her, but they just had to come back to the council for final approval, as I remember it.
Okay. Is that E? Is page
It's E.
53 E?
Consent agenda E.
So it'll be under the motion, Tyler?
Yes.
We'll adjust the motion then to what you just mentioned?
Yeah, and I don't know what actually happened, if this is what happened or.
We'll review the videotape and we'll...
Oh, yeah, I think that's what happened, but I'm talking about whether they were able to go ahead and start negotiating.
Oh.
Whether the minutes just say something, but the actual
Right.
actions taken.
The actual action was taken, the motion was adopted, and the condition was added to, once Three Rivers, if they were successful in reaching an agreement, to bring that agreement back then to council for each property for approval. So,
Yeah.
yes, that is correct. It is, motion is wrongly stated. It was passed. That condition was added to the resolution for them to go ahead and start negotiation.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So do you want it, should we bring that back, or can we clarify that and then pass the minutes?
I think clarification and then go ahead and
Okay.
pass the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay. Is that
I'll
clear
motion
enough
to
then?
approve the minutes with the changes.
With the changes? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes with those changes. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Next, we have our public hearings. We have our fee schedule as 5A. Believe
Yep.
that is Brian
Yep.
again?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is our ordinance 425, which would be our annual update to our fee schedule. So this would be our 2015 fee schedule. This packet item starts on page 79 of your packet. The most of the changes that are in, or all the changes that are in there are from basically from staff review, discussion with council, and then we review it both internally and externally to see how the fee schedule works. We're obviously just trying to make sure as far as our different utility funds and such that they cash flow. The biggest changes, as highlighted in the memo, are probably in the utility funds. Any changes in the schedule are highlighted in yellow, and maybe I'll just skip ahead to let's go the right way to the utility section, because that's where the major changes are on page, or the changes we had probably the most discussion on page 88. Those reflect the discussions we had in October and November with the council as far as the I guess the first one there would be the sewer amount per quarter, and we came to the consensus to raise that to $100 a quarter, up from $98 a quarter there, and then do the commiserate or the correlated adjustment for commercials and schools there, basically at 2%. The storm surface water management fee would go from $18.50 to $20 a quarter. I think that was mentioned earlier in the budget presentation. And then the water rates would be adjusted by 8% to across the board for the different tiers for residential, commercials, and schools. And that's obviously the biggest cost driving that is the water treatment plant as it's currently constituted. Probably one note I guess I can make while we're here is that was based on a $60 million plant, and I think the amount presented later is closer to $19.5 million. So obviously this 8% would at least be a start. But and that's what we'd recommend, at least right now, what the adjustment would be. I don't know if there's any other questions people have. We didn't really make a whole lot of changes other than the utility rates, and we did add a water connection charge. We discussed this, I think, as part of the Kings Point Road assessment process. We did not assess any of the property owners along Kings Point Road that would be potentially able to connect to water, but so we did add just a special water connection charge, which we were provided information with our city engineer as far as what that would be per unit for those properties to connect per that special connection fee in lieu of any type of assessment. Otherwise, yeah, I
But
guess.
they're not being charged an assessment.
Correct.
Okay, so if they want to connect, they would have to pay a special connection
That would be in addition to the regular water connection fee of $2,700 per unit plus the permit. They would pay that amount. That was the way, I guess, council had decided that it gives them more the option to, I guess, pay when they decide to hook up versus assessing at the time the assessment rule was adopted.
Okay. I have one comment on our fire service charge. It's a $500 charge, and I'm very much opposed to this because if somebody has a fire in their home and the fire department comes and then the city sends them a $500 bill, in my opinion, they're paying their taxes, and their taxes are going to go to the fire department to cover them should they need their services. And I think it's kind of a slap in the face to then send out a bill to them saying, oh, and by the way, now that your house burned and you had these issues, now we're going to slap you with a $500 bill. I'm just opposed to that.
If I can add something to that, for clarification on that, is that it actually is submitted and not coming out of your pocket as a homeowner. It's submitted to your insurance, and most of the insurance carriers have stipulation in their policies to and pay that. Most of them do. Not all of them do, but I think it was left. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. You were here, but if we had a situation here where it was not covered by the insurance, and we had a clarification also that if the call was made, that charge would not go out unless it was actually where they had to actually pull the hoses and put the fire out, because if they're actually pulling the hoses and putting the fire out, they're going to exceed their deductible. The homeowner's going to be responsible for their deductible on that fire. So in reality, it has no impact to the homeowner itself.
I believe so. It was documented structure fires only.
Structure fires only, because we do not want to have hardship put on a homeowner who has had a fire, just as you said, Madam Mayor, we don't need that. We don't need hardship because they're looking at that. So it'd only be in the case where it would be a structure fire over and above what their deductible would be, which in turn then would be paid for by their insurance company.
But these bills are sent directly to the resident, not to the insurance company, is my
They're sent
understanding?
to the homeowner, which
Does-
in turn is forwarded on to the insurance adjuster.
Okay, so the homeowner does receive a bill then?
He goes on and
And-
forwards it to their adjuster,
Yeah,
just as
just-
they would
I understand
additional
that,
living
just-
expense or anything else that may pertain to it.
I'm still opposed. I don't think, when I looked at our budget, it showed about a $500 revenue stream for the year. And I don't think that it's a necessary a fee that we need to charge. It doesn't bring in much revenue whatsoever. And I think it's just, again, it's just, a lot of people maybe don't understand it, Mr. Christians, as you
that's it.
explained it. And I think when they get a bill in the mail from the city after they've had a fire, and they see, my God, $500, why do I have to pay this? I just think we can eliminate a lot of heartache and a lot of bad feelings and ill feelings, and also extra work for the homeowner to have to get this reimbursed. That's just where I'm coming from. So,
And I think what we also, we talked about, if your insurance company doesn't cover it, then the city council has the authority to waive that. And as a resident, if I'm paying for that insurance policy, I think I should be able to collect it. And I would rather collect it from my insurance company because I'm paying for it, and give it to my city than let my insurance company keep it. If I'm not paying for it, it's a different story. But if I'm paying for it, which it sounds like most of us do pay for it, I think it's kind of, like I say, I'd rather give it to our city than let the insurance company keep it. That was, I know, kind of the thoughts
There are a number of
that I
other
had.
cities that are also doing that because, again, it's not a hardship on the homeowner. We're not looking to have it as a hardship on the homeowner. It's a little, it's very minimal. I agree with you, it's very, very minimal. But it is a cost. Our budgets keep going up on the fire department's cost to us, being we are using the Mound and St. Bonnie Fire Departments. And again, it is very, very minimal. But we're certainly not looking at it to be a hardship to any of our residents who have experienced that tragedy.
I'll ask a question, getting back a little further. What is the point of the 500? Like, what's the cost to our city when a fire is out there and Mound goes? I assume the cost to the fire department is a lot more, and that would get billed.
Yeah, well, we don't really get paid, we really don't pay our fire service contracts based on number of calls. I mean, we pay for their overall services, and that's directly negotiated with all the cities that participate in whichever fire district you're in, whether you're in the St. Bonnie one or the Mound Fire Department. So those costs are always increasing, but this will just offset that in a small manner.
Small manner, it's
Yeah.
very small.
And I think when this was presented to council last year, I don't think it was this calendar year.
It was.
It was
over a
implemented last
ago.
year for this
2013,
year, I
yeah.
think so. But I think we estimated, looking at history, number of structure fires, there's generally for city of Minnetrista residents, no matter which fire district you live in, there's a total of 6 to 7 per year. So we're looking at $3,000 to $3,500 in revenue that would help offset the cost of those fire contracts, which you saw were on the list of the increases. They're less than 2%, but they're fairly substantial contracts. Couple $100,000 each. Correct?
Oh,
In that
more than
range?
that, yeah, I think they're 500,000 total.
Yeah,
but when I
500,000
looked
total.
at our past and also this coming budget, it indicated a $500 revenue stream.
Well, that
So-
is the charge on any particular call.
I think
Right.
I just
And then
budgeted
totals.
conservatively instead of I just plugged in, one, you might have 1 in a year, you might have 5 in a year, so you really
Right.
can't count on, so that's why
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's real minimal in the grand scheme of things as far as.
Okay, well, those are my comments. Any other comments regarding the fee schedule?
Yeah, on the water, I think there's going to be a lot of discussion. When can the next council change it? Like, if we find out that the rates need to be adjusted in Q1, can they just change them for the rest of the year, or are we setting it for the year?
Councilmember Ammons, we can adjust those. We could come back and adjust them in January. We've usually just been in a historical process of trying to amend the fees once a year in December for the next year. And but if we find that we're having a deficiency or something, obviously projections change, or that you know, instead of an 8% increase, it needs to be 10 or 12. I mean, we would probably want to talk about that in January, and we would be able to change that for the first quarter billing. So.
Okay.
Yep, good question.
And right now, with the proposed project, it looks like it's going to be more like 12% increase.
Yeah, with these numbers.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I think, Madam Mayor and Council, I guess if depending on if you have any other questions, I guess we'd have to want to probably open a public hearing, and I think we technically have to have a public hearing on this every year. So.
Yep, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? Otherwise, I will open it up for public comments. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up and encourage you to speak for or against this. If you would like to, please just come to the podium. Your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Mayor, council members, city staff. This isn't about the water treatment facility, but on the wanted to point out on the resolutions that you just I'm sorry, Patricia Thole, 5900 Loring Drive, city council member elect. On page 66 of the package of materials, on the resolutions, there is a resolution regarding the funding to install a black colored cyclone fence on Loring Drive. And the copy there is referring to the Spirit of Lakes contributions of $200 per council member that was made. But that cyclone fence, the contribution was actually by John Holt, who lives on Loring Drive.
We've changed the title of that.
You made,
Yep, we made those
okay.
changes.
I apologize.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any comments regarding the fee schedule for 2015? Going once, going twice? Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing for the fee schedule for 2015. And I'm asking the council, do you wish to approve ordinance number 425, adopting the 2015 fee schedule?
Make a motion to adopt the 2015 fee schedule.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion, comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. So 4 and 1 nay. I'm opposing because of the fire surcharge. And also I need a resolution approving the publication of ordinance number 425 by title and summary.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, Ms. Donahue seconded that. All those in favor of approving the publication of ordinance number 425 by title and summary signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion does pass. Next, we move on to our business items. First, we have our 2015 budget approvals. We have to adopt and approve the 2015 tax levy. Mr. Grimm?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is on pages 92 to 94 of the packet. I'll just highlight in the memo the levy that is presented for adoption is a gross levy of $4,004,111. Once fiscal disparities is added in, and the net levy for 2015 is $3,902,585. The net levy in 2014 was $3,777,265. Staff it's basically that 3.2% overall levy increase as stated earlier. We need to certify by the end of the month to the county for our final tax levy. And on page 93 is the resolution basically stating in the different components, the general fund, the roads, the debt levies, etc. for the $4,004,111. I guess we'd be looking for a motion to that effect to adopt that 2015 final tax levy.
Okay. Any questions?
More of a comment, I guess.
Sure.
I'm very happy and proud of our staff for coming back with a less than 4.1%. It'd have been a lot easier just to take that and run with it. So I applaud staff for for taking the initiative to do that. I think we all appreciate it. So, I make a motion to adopt the 2015 tax levy.
Okay.
I'll
Is-
second that.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to adopt the final 2015 tax levy collectible, or 2014 tax levy collectible in 2015, excuse me. So be it resolved by the City Council of Minnetrista, Hennepin County, Minnesota, that the following sums of money be levied for the current year collectible in 2015 upon the taxable properties in the City of Minnetrista for the following purposes, and all of that is listed in your packet. So with that, all those in favor then signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. And next we have adopting and approving the 2015 budgets, the general fund, the special revenue, the debt service, and the CIP funds. Mr. Grimm, you're on again.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is on pages 95 and 96 of the packet. Basically, is a summary resolution. The detail for all the detail line items is on pages 9 through 47 of the packet. You can basically see on page 96 here, the total revenues and expenditures are projected for 2015 right now to be about 24 million each. The lion's share of that is the water treatment project, which was projected to be about 16 million, maybe a little higher now per the subsequent agenda item. But you can see the different components, the general fund, capital funds, all the debt funds are all included there. So staff would recommend that we adopt these budgets for the various funds for 2015 and look for a motion to do so as attached.
Well, Mr. Grimm, how does that work then? Because right now we have a project in front of us that's no longer 16 million, but closer to 20 million, and we're approving something for 16 million.
Well, I guess there's a couple different ways we could do it. We could right now adopt the budget for and amend that up to, I guess, 19.5 million or 20 million. Or when we were putting together this budget, we first got the updated project numbers late midweek
Right.
last week. So we can always do budget amendments in 2015. Obviously, the discussion that may happen subsequently may increase or lower that number, I guess, depending on where we decide to go. So
Okay.
I guess, yeah, we put together the budget based on the information we had as of early last week when we were
Right.
putting this all together. So I guess I would recommend passing it as is, knowing that
There
we
may
might have
be
a
some
budget
adjustments.
amendment in January or February or
Okay.
anytime next year, I guess. So
Yeah, okay. Right, I mean, we're not stuck with that
No.
number one way or the other.
Oh gosh, no. I
Okay.
mean, basically, some cities we usually adopt our amend our budget maybe once a year in December, and we do a pretty thorough and good budgeting process
Okay.
here. But some things sometimes are just beyond your control. Our different timelines may not quite jive. So
Okay, all right. Okay, other questions? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adopt and approve the 2015 budgets for general fund, special revenue, debt service, and CIP funds.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor signify with aye.
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 All those opposed, motion passes. Next, we have adopting and approving an updated financial management plan.
okay, I'm almost done here.
You're almost done, all right.
All right. 2 to go.
Good.
Yeah. This is just the annual. We first adopted a financial management plan back in 2008 for good long-term financial planning versus just going year to year. And basically, the documents are attached on pages 97 through 102. There's the resolution on page 98. Basically, we take the 2013 numbers, 2015 budget numbers, incorporate, and then look long-term. One of the things I think I'll point out on page 99, I think a question came up earlier as far as the fund balance. You can see we're looking to try to project that down to 48%, 2016, 2017, 45. So we are looking at, balancing the tax levy projected increases and looking at trying to keep it in that, inflationary or type of, 2, 3, 4% or whatever. So while still meeting all our, we know we have a lot of needs in the city as far as infrastructure, et cetera. So, I guess, I probably would, entertain a motion to adopt this update to the plan. Obviously, we look at this plan at least annually, if not even more, we follow it. So,
Right.
this is our best, effort at it again here at year end, so.
Okay, and we'll probably be looking at it again with the new council as well.
Sure,
just
we'll
to
definitely
make sure
have
that everybody's on board.
a
and-
process just to
Okay.
explain it and how it works and
Right,
everything. Yep, so,
okay.
yep.
Okay, is there a recommended action by city staff is approve by resolution an update to the financial management plan? Are there questions, discussions? If none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the updated financial management plan.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any question, comments? Mr. Abrams, you keep looking at, do you have some
Well,
comments?
So, I mean, it's a projection.
Right.
Correct, yep.
But one thing to just keep in mind is, and I wish this would go a little further, because once you're down into that 48% range for the
Fund balance.
fund
Yeah.
balance, then either one of two things are going to have to happen. The tax levy is going to have to increase a bunch, or you're going to have to cut spending way back when you're used to spending X amount of dollars. Because you're not going to be able to keep taking from the fund balance like
Right.
we've been doing the last 2 years.
I think you probably want to balance that, so you take a little, add a little, take a little, add a little, so you're not doing that in big steps.
Yeah.
And you can see on the sheet presented, we're trying to by 2017-18 use less than right. This year we're using 150,000 of fund balance. We're trying to sort of wean that off and sort of strategically use that to balance, some, and then you look at line 60 there, the tax levy change percent. We're trying to keep that around, 3,654, and obviously those are just all projections, but we do have, streets to do and this and that, and the, so it's just trying a push and pull or a balance to try to keep that, all those different
Right.
factors in their margin of error, or proper.
And as I said, it's a projection.
Sure.
so-
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So-
Yep.
Thank you. Good comments. Okay. Sorry, a motion was made and seconded then. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify with aye.
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 All those opposed, motion passes. Next, we have a resolution approving a partial release of our final payment for city project zero. I'm sorry,
I think-
utility financial
Yeah, I got
management
one
plan.
last one, and then I'll stop
See, I
talking.
just wanted to
Okay,
get
yeah.
past you, Brian. Okay. Utility
Sorry.
financial plan.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This, for the utility financial management plan, we actually did that for the first year, the year after in 2009, so it's the same type of theory. We've updated for 2013 actual numbers, 2015 budget. All of these were brought individually in October and November, the water, sewer, and surface water plans, so there's really nothing new. They incorporate projections on water treatment, some of the surface water projects we talked about during 2015, the Morning View Drive project, etc. We've got any capital purchase that we've talked about with council as far as for Public Works Department for these utility funds. It's all on the pages 103 to 116 of the packet, so I guess we entertain a motion if the council so chooses to approve this update to the plan or the projection for the utility funds here. So.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to adopt and approve the updated utility financial management plan.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to adopt and approve updated utility financial management plan as presented. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. So now we're on a partial release. A final payment for the city project 01-11 for Trunk Highway 7 and County Road 11 and Kings Point Road Roundabout improvements and city project for Kings Point Road Street and Utility Improvement Project. That's Paul? Okay.
Correct. Mayor and members of the council, good evening. You may recall in October you did approve final payment for the two projects. What we did is the work to provide the final cost for the projects and able to assess it to the county before the deadline this year. We did go through and make final payment, recommend final payment.
This was about a $6.5 million project. That final payment accounted for about $1 million. Just a little bit more than that. Out of that $1 million, our typical 5% retainage would be about $320,000, a little bit more. I'm just rounding numbers off here, but we put the contractor in a bit of a conundrum. Is that the final payment was contingent upon them performing a punch list item, which was cleaning out a pond and restoring some erosion, and they have done that. They also needed to provide their IC-134s, which is a tax withholding affidavit, and they need to get that not only from the prime contractor, but also from all their subcontractors. I believe there are 14 subcontractors on the project. They also need to get their consent to surety and their warranty bond. Without the, one of the problems that we were running into is getting lien waivers from all the subcontractors that haven't been paid, based on the difference between the $1 million final payment and what we would retain is just over $700,000. What we're requesting the council approve is making payment in that $700,000. We have $700.
Could you use a mic?
I don't think they're working in
$714,000.
here.
Aren't they working at all?
Not really.
No.
I hope you have room in your budget to improve your system so you can be open and transparent in conducting meetings.
We will try. Thank you. Paul, maybe just speak louder if you could.
Sure. The release we're requesting is that of that $1 million, we release $714,011.10, and that would include everything except what would be our normal 5% retainage on the project. And this would assist the contractor in getting their consent to surety, their IC-134s from their subcontractors, and the lien waivers, which we require before we can make final payment. So we wouldn't make that final payment, the remaining $327,000, until we receive those documents. What we're asking council tonight is to, as part of the motion, as part of your previous action, you approve final payment contingent upon those items. We're asking that you we release a portion of that final payment so the contractor can actually get their lien waivers and the IC-134s from the subcontractors.
So it's kind of a catch-22. You
It's
need
a catch-22.
you need to pay them so that they can do their thing. Okay.
The other
And
way of doing it is everybody sit at the table, everybody pass checks around, so everybody's
right.
happy and lien waivers. But
right.
we won't have to go through that, I don't think.
But Paul, do we have some kind of a performance surety or something?
Yes.
Where, okay,
There's a warranty bond that they would have to provide
Okay.
as part of the project.
okay, and
That's a requirement of final payment.
okay. So you're basically saying we should retain about $257,000? Was that the number I recall?
The total amount for both projects that we would retain is $327,503.
Okay. And is that enough to get us everything that we need to make sure that we're covered? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Otherwise, resolution to approve the partial release of final payment for city projects, as I stated before, and utility improvement project. I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. So now we move on to the fun part of the evening while you're all here. We have the water treatment facility discussion. Bolton and Mank will be doing, I believe, a presentation, and then the council will be discussing the water treatment facilities.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Seth Peterson. I'm with Bolton and Mank. I've been here multiple times before. Mayor, this is my first time in front of you for this. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to go through a relatively quick and brief overview of the water treatment system improvements. I understand there's lots of questions, and so we're going to kind of go through the presentation. We have a brief PowerPoint. You have hard copies of the design report in front of you. We're basically just going to go over this, trying to hit the highlights, and then get into any questions that you may have. Before I get into a little more, there's been a lot of work that's been done on this project, a lot of meetings.
starting back, and we do not have this up as a slide, but on page 5 of your report in front of you, just kind of goes through the project history, starting back on April 7th, when the council selected Bolton and Mank for the project feasibility study, all the way through September 2nd. We list various meetings and open houses that we had, et cetera. When September 2nd was, council authorized Bolton and Mank to proceed with preliminary design. We've been working since that time to refine this project, various options, routing of water mains, design of the water treatment facility. We've had 8 meetings with staff. We've had multiple meetings, I think 3 meetings with city council, so we've come to the council and staff with all these important decisions. A lot of those meetings have been at council work sessions, and then subsequently gone on to council meetings for formal approval for everything that we're talking about here this evening. So just the agenda, just quick summary. I'll go through the water main routes, project cost summary, financing, and then the project schedule. Water treatment plant site. So this is just located east of the of the city hall and of this complex here. Here's the police station. Here's the location of the water treatment facility. Here's County Road 110, right to the north. Just a little closer view of that. This is the layout of what the water treatment facility would look like, using an existing access road that is already in there. Example rendering. This has been shown at other other meetings. This is looking at 110, kind of looking from 110, looking to the south east direction. Would have similar architecture at this point to the City Hall campus, to the police station, just try to kind of tie everything in together. This is a process flow diagram. This is something council has not seen yet. This is part of our preliminary design. And basically what a process flow diagram, it just shows and diagrams how water travels through the entire water treatment facility. So start over here on the very far left. This is the water coming in, the raw water coming in from your wells, goes through various treatment. We aerate it, goes into a detention tank. We aerate it because we're trying to oxidize the iron, create a particle of iron so we can capture that on the filter. Goes through then detention here where we're letting that, the chemical reaction occur. Water then flows through water treatment, or through the filters. The filters are really the heart and soul of the water treatment facility. That's where you filter out the particulates of the iron and manganese. Those are the constituents in the water that you get the most complaints on as a city. From there, that water then travels into a large underground clear well reservoir. All this is concrete construction. This is like another storage tank. It's 500,000 gallons. And pumps from here will then pump it out into the distribution system and pressurize the system from there. At times we need to backwash these filters, so we would then use clear water here from these reservoirs, backflow the flow through the filters, and then we capture that product in these backwash reclaim tank. We reclaim about 90% of that water back into the water treatment facility. The bottom 10% we waste to the sanitary sewer. Just a better overview of the groundwater, the water treatment plant, and of the floor plan. What I really want to talk about here, and what we've talked about in the past, is potential expansion capabilities of the water treatment facility. If the city grows, needs additional capacity, you can add to this direction, to the south, to the south, add on additional clear well, additional filter capacity, should the city ever need additional capacity in the future. The water main system is quite extensive, as we've talked about here. We're looking at 34,000 feet of 8-inch to 12-inch raw water mains, so we need to bring all the raw water into the water treatment facility. From the treatment facility, it's treated water, then we send out the treated water to the rest of the system, tie in all the system. We have 27,000 feet of 16-inch and 20-inch treated water mains. We have about almost a mile of 10-inch existing water main that we're going to convert to a raw water main, and then almost a mile, a little over a mile of 4-inch sanitary sewer force main. And that's that reclaim water, that bottom part of that 10% that we have to send to the sanitary sewer. Quick overview of the system. This is a map we've looked at before. So here's the water treatment plant location. City Hall is located and police station are located right here. We've broken out the water main into 5 segments. And you'll see in the cost estimates, that's what we've done. And so we have this southern portion segment, We have the County 44 and Lotus Drive segment. We have the 110 segment. We have the Saunders Lake and West Edge Boulevard segment in here. And then we have the segment County Road 15, Dutch View, and Game Farm Road segment. So those are the 5 segments of water main that we're really talking about when we're talking about the water main. This is just the more detailed breakout of cost for the water treatment facility, just so you can kind of see what the major components are. Just tried to break it out into some things that made sense. You can see the overall total cost, right about $8 million. Also note in here that we include well improvement costs of about $235,000, and you may ask, well, what does that include? And what that is that the wells would no longer be pumping to a water tower that's 150 feet in the air. It's going to be pumping to a water treatment facility that's 30 feet in the air. And so the pumps would be downsized so that they are not pumping too high of head to the water treatment or to the tower and be pumping right to the water treatment facility. So you need to make some improvements to those, and those are included in here. These are the water main costs that we have broken out in those 5 segments. You can see those 5 segments here. South of the water plant, County Road 44 and Lotus, County Road 110, Saunders Lake and West Edge Boulevard, and then the very northern portion, County Road 15, Dutch View, and Game Farm Road. You can see we have total cost here of about $9.3 million for those. Add all that together, and they are some big numbers. $8 million for, just under $8 million for the water plant, a little over $9.3 million for the water main, $17.3 million for your construction subtotal. Engineering costs, that would be design and bid services. So far to date, all the city has encountered on that would be the preliminary design for about $305,000. So that's included in that, just over $1 million. You have construction services at about 4.5%. So engineering subtotal, and then we have easement costs in here and a total project cost of about $19.5 million. Obviously, some of the questions are going to be, well, this is different, and we've heard before. In your budget before, you had 16.3 or 5 or 16.2 or something is what you had before for those costs. When we did our feasibility study and looked at some of these items back this summer, we've since had the ability to go back and look at where bid numbers have come in. This past summer has been a volatile bidding season, and so we've used those numbers from that volatile bidding season and applied those numbers to the water main. It mainly impacted the water main costs. We saw project costs 10, 20, 30% over previously budgeted costs. So we've implemented those new estimates into this. Also from our original feasibility study, things have changed. The water treatment facility slid west about half a mile, whatever it was. It slid quite a bit west. There are some benefits to that now and in the future, but it does change the routing of water main. And then also by sliding everything, some of those water main lengths increase, and that increases cost too. Project financing and funding. The city, we've mentioned before, has been applying for the Public Facilities Authority. It's a loan program, a low interest loan program through the state of Minnesota. The city is on the IUP, which is the intended use plan. A requirement of that is that you have plans and specs submitted to the Minnesota Department of Health by March 30th of 2015. The benefit of this program, as we mentioned before, is the very low interest rates. It's a 20-year loan program. You get interest rates 1.5% below the market rate right now, and the lowest that the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority can go is 1%. Right now, current rates are right at 1%. We don't know exactly where you'll end up because you won't close the loan if you continue to proceed with this project until June, until you have all the bids in and you've awarded the project. At that point, you can go ahead and close the loan. So if anyone can tell me what interest rates would be in June of 2015, well, I don't know why any of us are sitting here if we know that to look into that crystal ball. But anyway, so it's a very competitive program, and it helps cities keep that debt service lower. Loan repayment is done by water user charges. We use that term loosely. That would include usage fees, area charges, connection charges, includes all those items. So we're not just saying user charges, that's a kind of all-encompassing of how you would pay for the debt service back on the water treatment facility. Just the letter from the Minnesota Department of Health, just so you have this, city staff has this, just indicating that yes, you are on the 2015 drinking water plan. Lays out the dates here. It's kind of hard to see, but March 30th is that key date there of plans and specs. Need to have the environmental review completed by June 30th. That's part of the PFA loan packet. And then water supply plan approved by the DNR by June 30th. This is the project schedule that's laid out here. As you see, we're starting with December 1st at the top of the page there. Key things here are continue to move forward. That March 30th date is looming, and so we'll be asking for approval of the feasibility study as it is in front of you. Also, that March 30th date is looming forward. We've talked about the importance of continuing moving forward with the design of it so we can meet that March 30th date. Delay could put that in jeopardy of potentially getting plans and specs submitted on time, and the city would potentially lose their spot on that PFA funding list. So we just lay out all the deadlines here. Key one again is this March 30th for plans and specs due to the Department of Health. Some of these dates here can slide a little bit. It is important though that the awards, you need to award the contract by the end of June of 2015 because the state of Minnesota starts their new fiscal year July 1. So some of those dates can move a little bit, but you still need to basically hit this one down here, the award contract end of June of 2015, and then obviously this March 30th date. Like I said, a quick update. I'm sure there's lots of questions. I'll entertain any of those at this point.
In your proposal, especially why don't you go back to the slide for the project cost in our packet, it's on page 29. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Okay, I want to address project costs. I don't see some of the residents here this evening. They expressed concern regarding all of their road and their trees and landscaping. I don't see any of that here. And I also realize that the easement estimate you had previously was significantly higher, and now you've reduced it to $340,000. So, and the temporary easements is only $40,000, and I believe you said that there would be at least 23 permanent easements needed. Is that correct?
I think that's
and how many temporary easements are you going to need? I'm assuming it's temporary construction easements?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, Ken, I think Ken's going to help answer some of these questions.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Ken Adolph with Bolton & Mink. There is a table in the design report that indicates the number of easements that are anticipated, and in the text we indicated that for the water main routes extending south of the water treatment plant, kind of going south easterly towards Kings Point Road. That route was defined relatively early in the process, so as a result, we're able to, the city attorney was able to research the deeds for the properties along the route, and on that basis we know the exact number of easements, both permanent and temporary. And the temporary in that case would were to widen the easements that the city has along Kings Point Road and Halstead Drive, which currently just have prescriptive easement on those roads, which kind of, for the most part, limit the width of the available easement to the width of the improved roadway. On the balance of the routes, those were approved much later, and as a result, the research has not been done. So we're just estimating, especially on the temporary easements, we don't know how, in which cases there'll be some additional easements required to supplement the width that you have along the roadway with the prescriptive easements. So that's estimated. So the 23 number is, in our opinion, kind of the upper limit of that. If we find that there's some easements that have been dedicated through one means or another for the full width of the right-of-way, 66 feet typically, that would reduce that number.
So these are estimates, so they could go up from here.
As I said, the number that we cited were kind of the, what we feel is the upper limit.
And the temporary easements? You have 40,000 for temporary easements?
That's right.
That doesn't seem like that's enough, especially if you have to reconstruct and re-landscape and replant and.
To address, I guess, some of the questions that came up from the residents earlier on, the intent is that, especially going through the Saunders Lake area, that the water main construction would be contained within the public right-of-way, which is 50 feet in width.
How wide did you say it was?
50 feet in width, so the property lines are about 25 feet from the center line of the road, which puts them about 10 or 11 feet behind the back of the curb. So that boulevard area that is really maintained by the property owners really is part of the public right-of-way. And that area would be utilized for water main construction.
But hold on just a second. But even in the boulevard area, there's landscaping, there's a lot of trees and, hold on, yeah. So, I mean, there is a lot of concern. There is a lot of concern, and when I see this $40,000 mark, I'm thinking that's not gonna be nowhere near enough to figure out how to fix these things. And then, I don't know if you're aware or not, but our city has what we call a boulevard tree ordinance. So when a developer goes into a community, they have to plant boulevard trees every few feet. And we've been very careful to do that because we value our trees, we value our natural resources, and we do for a number of reasons. They're critical for the environment, but they're also very valuable and enhance the neighborhoods. So now if you go in and you remove these trees that have been there for 15 years and then replant them with little tiny ones, we're basically starting all over. It really changes the whole atmosphere and the whole looks of the neighborhood. And not to mention the fact, even if you stay within the right-of-way, if there are people that have taken it upon themselves to make improvements, now we're tearing it all out. To me, that's just, it saddens me, and I just don't know that that's a responsible manner. So, is there some point where, I mean, I'm kind of flabbergasted, I guess.
Well, just to.
Map of where it's going, you couldn't see where the proposal was in the first
Okay.
So we can see what
Okay.
residents are going to be doing.
Yeah, for the 23, you get the easements. Wouldn't you wanna know if somebody's digging in your yard? I wanna know if I have an easement in my yard. Or if you have a big water tower that looks right over you.
50 feet wide.
You didn't buy the property for that.
Okay, let's let them go to the plan, and then, can you zoom in, because,
Do we have these pages in a
Yeah, do you have-
presentation that you can put up on the screen?
We had them at the last, the council work
I
session.
think it'd be better if we go through the last packet when it went through.
do you have
Last time.
those
See if
in
we
a,
can find it.
okay, hold on, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and bring up,
Was it in the packet or the presentation?
Absolutely. There's a law, there's a constitution, we have rights.
A lot of property that was done, that had water.
Yeah, we bought it on city water.
okay, hold on,
It was done.
yeah,
We wouldn't have to go through this.
We could have bought anywhere in Minnetrista that didn't have city water if that's
what we'll do,
This one.
let me try, what we'll do is,
go in our backyard.
hold on just a second, people. Hello. Maybe what we'll do, hello, please listen here. Hold on. I think what we'll do, if I could, please, if let's go through the map so you can clearly see who's going to be affected or how you're going to be affected. Then I will ask if you could all, then I'll give you an opportunity to come forward and make a statement, okay, so that we have orders, because we need to keep this meeting orderly. I'll definitely allow you to come forward and to make a statement, okay? So first, let's look at the map. If we can bring it up. If we can't, you still will be able to make some statements, okay?
We do, and that's what these maps right here will show everything for you. I think part of the confusion comes from, one of the things that we're doing right now is we're data gathering. We have to gather a lot of data, survey, to know exactly what is in that 50-foot,
Well, I know
right
you
of
were
way.
on my sidewalk, right by my front door, and there's two, so, and had everything, so.
And so part of the reason we gather all that data is so if the water main, wherever it comes, and one of the things that we need to do there is we need to connect everyone's water main back up. And so we gather all this survey data so that when everything is graded back out, we can tell the contractor how to grade everything back out. So part of what we're doing right now is just gathering data.
So, Mr. Adolph, could you show us?
Final design has not been completed yet on this, and so we gather the data to figure out exactly where water mains would go.
You're asking for final approval.
It says final.
Don't tell me that you're.
Hold on, please, hold on. So a couple questions, Mr. Adolph, if you could. Do you have, for instance, there's a road. Would you be taking out the road and putting it under the road, or would you be taking out the sidewalk and the boulevard and be putting it under that area? Where do you have any idea at this point where that actual where the actual lines are going to be going?
Well, Madam Mayor, the survey work is in process, which gathers all the data, and with that information, then we can determine where the best location is for the proposed water main. Now, we have looked at the original construction plans for the street utilities and the Saunders Lake neighborhoods, and so we believe we know which side of the road the water main would go on. In general, what you have there, the sanitary sewer is generally down the center of the street, and the water main is on one side, and in some cases there's storm sewer and some force main, sanitary force main on the other side. So we'd typically be on the same side of the road as the existing water main and just be putting it in parallel. So that the street's kind of curved, so the exact location is going to vary relative to the curve. But in general, we expect that the new water main would be constructed for the most part under the curb line. That would require obviously.
So what are you saying, within the curb?
No, directly under the curb.
So that
Yeah,
would
it would
require
be-
taking out the boulevard and.
That would require, of course, removing the curb. Would require in this area because the source or the water services have to be reconnected. There'd be a number of excavations required. So in this particular area, the water main construction would be done by open trenching.
Okay, so you're talking open trenching in this area versus directional bore. So you're talking a wide swath then, basically the entire road, probably the whole.
The trench should be about 8 feet deep, or 9 feet to the bottom of the trench.
And you have to also maintain a certain.
The contractor has maintained a safe trench.
Correct.
And what they can be required to do is to use what's called a trench box, which is a box that goes into the trench to protect the workmen, and it allows the contractor to have more
steeper
close to
walls,
vertical
yeah.
sides so that you reduce the width. So again, the intent is that the excavation and the construction activity would be contained within the right-of-way. So that does take the 10-foot area behind the curb, which is within the city's right-of-way. That area, which if there's, it would be resodded. If there's some invisible fences there, those would be repaired. If the landscaping, there'll be an allowance to restore that. But the plan would be to, as much as possible, restore the boulevard area to the pre-construction conditions.
Okay. Could we, Maybe what I'll do, if you don't mind, I know the residents here have a lot of questions. So why don't we have the residents come up one by one and ask their questions, if you don't mind? I think it's important that they be heard, if you will. So the gentleman there with his hand up, if you could please state your name and address for the record, and try and be concise, if you will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Carter. I live on Basswood Drive in Saunders Lake South. Some of my question is really about the use of these terms. When I think about a water main passing in front of my house, I thought I heard him also say connections need to be made. Is this a supply water main we're talking about, or are we talking about moving raw water from north of Saunders Lake down here to the new facility? So some of these things are nuances that
Right.
I don't know, and I'll confess I'm new to this process. My antennas have been raised recently. What has been the public comment timeline? Am I 6 months late coming to this meeting, or has this discussion ever been made public and subject to public comment?
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
actual route, I don't think, was determined until recently. The actual route for the pipes wasn't determined until recently.
So this is the first time that this has been seen by members of the public? Is that
It
correct?
was discussed at the last meeting. It was discussed.
Okay.
I wasn't on the.
There was
on
the 13th of November, and I've seen a plat map also that talks about additional water towers. Are those part of the 30-year plan, or are those a part of this plan that we're not discussing here
Yeah,
also?
okay.
So
those
are some of my concerns.
Okay. Okay, just a second. Yep, hold on. Should we answer, maybe we can answer some of your questions, and then we'll take another comment?
Sure.
So,
In this area, you're gonna have both raw water and treated water. Right now, you are served by a water main. The water is pumped straight out of the ground and right into the distribution system where you are. What we're gonna do is convert that line into a raw water main. And so it'll, essentially what it is now, because it pumps straight out of the ground, it's not treated water.
It's raw water.
It's raw water. It's treated with a little bit of chemical that comes right to your house. What the water treatment facility will do is remove the iron and manganese from that. And so, and this raw water line will be a line bringing the well water, raw water, to the water treatment facility. Now we need to bring back to you finished water, treated water. And so, if we're gonna turn this line, the existing line that's there, into a raw water main, you have a connection into your house. We need to sever that connection. As we bring the finished water back along through the street, you need to remake that connection to your house with the finished water, so you are getting finished water and not raw water.
okay. So everybody,
I believe so, Ken, that's correct. Everyone on South Saunders Lake and North Saunders Lake Drive, you're served by that water main that comes through there. You'll have a reconnection to the new finished water main.
The yellow line kind of indicates the route that the water main would take. So this is 110 right down here, so it comes up on the east side of the existing well house, and then follows South Saunders Lake Drive, and then parallels the existing water main to North Saunders Lake Drive, and then to West Edge Boulevard. So yes, these properties that front on South Saunders Lake Drive and North Saunders Lake Drive along the route would have to have their services reconnected.
because so you're going to disconnect them, and then you're going to reconnect them, but you don't have to do that to every single household, only the households that are on the route?
Only the households on the route that are currently served by the water main, that is the existing water main that's going to be converted to the raw water main.
And then there,
The other ends who are receiving kind of raw water into our home, that will be converted to treated water for delivery. Yes, at various methods.
now do the peoples, do typically,
So all these folks over here are not going to be disrupted, and their existing water mains will be converted to treated water, correct?
Correct.
All these folks here?
Right.
Where's the water tower gonna be?
There's no water tower proposed.
there's,
We just saw a plat just today that suggested the location of a 200,000 gallon water tower. Is that in the 30-year plan or not a part of this proposal, is what I'm
With,
saying?
with this proposal, yeah. With,
Is that the one in your property, is it in your property?
hold
Is it
on,
drawn in?
hold on. Let me answer one question at a time. Hold on, one question at a time. With this proposal, there would be no water tower in that area. Is that correct? The pressure that you get is from the water treatment plant. Is that correct?
And the other towers throughout the system.
Okay,
They'd
so
be interconnected with the north system, the south system, the other towers would provide that pressure.
In the nomenclature in the plan, this is the central, we're in the central
We
area
are
of
in
the
the
water
central
system.
area.
right,
Yep,
right.
exactly.
Okay, all right. Are there other people then? Let's go over here, Pat, and then I'll come back to the lady there. And
Well, okay, so what is the reimbursement plan that you have for the residents that you're gonna, you know, 'cause like, you make it sound like you're just gonna go down the middle of the road. But your survey guys were in my yard, on my sidewalk, surveying my yard, saying that they can go where the curb is, 10 feet, and then another 6 feet. So they can go 16 feet. That will take out two 30-foot maples and a 30-foot evergreen, my berm in the front. And then he said that most likely our driveways will be patched. So you'll replace the driveway only up to the 16 feet. So our driveway will have a seam in it. I don't see any reimbursement plan. I have $30,000 worth of landscaping. My neighbor has $50,000 worth of landscaping. How are you going to do that? Are you just gonna give everybody, well, here's a check for $3,000, good luck? You know, I mean, our irrigation system, everybody. You know, this is not some little neighborhood that goes to Home Depot and puts little lights in there's lighting systems, there's everything. We have high-end. This lady over here has rocks that are like giant landscaping rocks. Yeah, I mean, it's high-end landscaping over there. And if you guys are not budgeting for this, and I don't want some city worker just throwing whatever they can and putting it together. I wanna hire my own landscaping company and have them redo it exactly the same. And I don't see how you're going to be able to replace 30-foot trees. Can you do that? Can you replace two 30-foot maples? I mean, my husband and I are looking to sell our home and downsize, and this is gonna put us years out to get our landscaping all back together again.
Sure, and just to help address, and Ken, jump in here, when we come through, and what we're doing right now is gathering that data, we're gathering that information for surveying. So exactly where the water main goes, as we said, we have some good ideas. I don't know exactly where you live, but we could sit down with you afterwards and lay that.
Right next to the pump house. I mean, the pump house is here, we're across the street, and 3 doors down where they said it's gonna come right in there.
Sure.
And
so
our other neighbor right there, it's coming right in there too.
And we're gathering all that data and that information. As Ken alluded to, as they come through, if they disrupt the irrigation system, the invisible fence, all that needs to be reconnected. Landscaping, everything needs to be put back essentially to the way it was. If trees are taken, we can only do so much with trees.
I don't want sticks.
But
I want little
we're gonna
sticks
come back
in
and try
there.
to replace everything pretty much as it is. I believe that,
Well,
Ken.
what about seamed driveways? What about that? I don't want a seamed driveway. I want a driveway, you know? I mean, I can be honest with you, I will fight this every which way I can. Unless you guys are gonna put it in writing, I wanna see a contract, and I wanna see it, that it's gonna be okay with us. Granted, I want clean water. We have crummy water, and I really want something, but I don't want this to go through my neighborhood. And I don't want it.
Pat,
I
I
don't
think,
want
yeah,
everything
I think those are good comments, and I think that, well, that would have to be addressed if this plan is pursued. Before Ken, just real quick, this lady back here has been raising her hand with the glasses.
Just to, can I address her
Okay,
questions?
sure.
We've looked at the area right by the pump house, and
as I said, as we get more information, we're refining the plans. And actually, in that particular area, starting at the pump house, the new water main will be on the southerly or easterly side of South Saunders Lake Drive, which I think puts it across the street from.
It puts it across the street from
So-
her into her neighbors.
But that
I mean,
area-
either way, you have.
Can I address the questions one at a time?
Yeah.
I think.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
So anyway, in that particular area, the existing water main is only 8-inch, which is too small to be converted to a 10-inch water main. So what we've determined is the best scenario there. And I know this is getting a lot of detail, but if you're going to try to address specific questions from specific property owners, you have to. So the best approach in this area for that first block is to do directional drilling and put in a new water main, both raw and treated water, and leave the existing water main actually in place. So, and for that one block section, it would be directionally drilled.
Ken, can you show that on the map where you're talking about there? So by directional drill, what will that do then to the concerns that those people had there? Is that less disruption then to their properties?
Well, directional drilling is a trenchless construction, so it's anticipated there would have to be an access pit right near the pump house where there's a sharp angle point. There'd have to be another access pit over here because the directional drilling can't go around sharp curves. And so there'd be directional drilling from this point to here, and then from here up to the near the intersection.
How far does that go into the curb? Because I own that one 258 feet on that curb.
So Ken, couldn't you do directional drilling in the entire area?
Well,
with the open,
well, in this area, because the existing water main is going to be retained and there's no need to reconnect the services to the new water main, we'll do the directional drilling. Extending this part, we start converting the existing water main to a raw water main, so the services need to be reconnected. So the service.
Is that the worst part of it then?
I guess I didn't understand the question. The worst part, I mean, the most disruption would be where there's open cut, which would be the case from here to here, and then from here up to West Edge.
Okay. So, let me ask a different question. I know this is maybe a moot point, and I know this council has wanted to go the centralized system. But when I look at these numbers, and I don't see a lot of money for restoration, and I don't see all of the figures that we probably need to have in order to make a very well-informed decision. We don't see exactly where this line is going, because the impacts to the residents is a huge factor. I mean, it is a huge factor, and we need to consider that, besides the costs. So if you had done, or if the council were to go with a decentralized system, none of this piping would be needed. Number one, you'd save the cost, and number two, the impacts to the residents would be huge. I mean, the savings it would be huge to the residents. So I'm just saying that if, we need to decide immediately what is the best solution for our community as a whole? As a whole, how do we do this in a cost-effective manner that will deliver quality water to our residents at the least impact and the least disruption? And I'm looking at this, and I know you've studied it, and I'm not faulting anybody for anything, but I look at this and I say, we're talking nearly $6 million just for the piping alone from the south up to the north. $6 million just for the piping. Is that being fiscally responsible? I don't see it. I just don't see it. And I'm not saying Bolton and Mank couldn't be part of the plan if it was a decentralized system. I think that was the fear, that if you went to a decentralized system, you wouldn't be involved anymore. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think for the good of the entire community, we need to look at what is in the best interest, long-term, fiscally, and impact-wise, and all these things. And I'm seeing a $19.5 million project escalating because some of these projects, some of these costs aren't even included in that 19.5 million.
Madam Mayor, to address the question about the restoration costs, those are included in the construction costs for the water main. The easement costs are just the cost for acquiring easement rights and the related professional fees. So all of the construction cost for doing the restoration in the boulevard area, and as well as reconstructing the street, those are all included in the water main construction costs.
And those weren't, I didn't see where it was broken out, so we don't know what the cost is. Hold on, Pat, just a second. So you're saying the $9 million or $9.8 million for the pipes includes how much for putting people's yards back?
Right.
And
those are summaries that we showed as far as the cost in the appendix of the design report. There's itemized cost estimates for each of the 5 water main routes.
right.
And that has line items for sodding and for street restoration for curb and all of those things. And then there's also a contingency item for kind of those unknown items that at this estimate we didn't know, but as we get information from the survey work and get into this in more detail, that those things will be identified.
Okay. What we need to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back, and then this lady, I don't know your name, you, and then the lady, Barbara, and then the lady behind you, and then you. We do kind of need to wrap this up, but we're going to take a 5-minute break. Hold on to your questions, and then we're going to come back, okay? Okay? Thank you.